The other big highlight of the BRICS summit will be Prime Minister Modi coming face-to-face with Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. Their teams have just struck a border deal after 4 years of standoff. We told you about it yesterday, the India-China thaw. And now Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping are in Kazan. So you can imagine there's intense speculation. Will the two leaders meet on the sidelines? It is likely, although there's no confirmation, given how sensitive the equation is. But this could be the perfect opportunity to attempt another reset. Yesterday, India announced the border agreement. Today, China confirmed it.
In recent times, China and India have maintained close communication on relevant issues on the China-India border through diplomatic and military channels. At present, the two sides have reached a solution to the relevant issues, which China has positively evaluated. In the next step, China will work with India to implement the above solution.
So will the leaders meet? If they do, it would be significant. Their first meeting in 5 years. In the last 5 years, they've had brief interactions, but no substantive meeting. The last one happened in 2019 when Prime Minister Modi hosted President Xi. After that, all high-level engagements came to a grinding halt. And we all know why. In the middle of the Wuhan virus pandemic, China provoked India at the border. In the summer of 2020, the standoff continued for years with tens of thousands of troops deployed on both sides of the border. After 52 rounds of military and diplomatic talks, a deal was announced yesterday, right before Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping touched down in Kazan. Obviously, it fueled speculation. Was this to set the stage for a meeting between the two leaders? Both sides are tight-lipped, not just about a possible meeting, but also about the details of the border agreement. What really does it entail? What happens to the troops at the border? Will the numbers go down? What kind of timelines have they agreed on? When will China disengage? As we wait for these answers, here's what we can tell you. This deal has two broad elements. The first one addresses the two flashpoints in Ladakh, Depsang Plains and Demchok. Indian and Chinese troops will be able to patrol these areas, and this is a major breakthrough. The dispute over Depsang and Demchok is an old one. It predates the 2020 border standoff. China has been trying to block Indian patrols in these areas. Now, with this agreement, clear rules should be put in place, will be put in place, as we understand. Reports say for each patrol, there will be at least 14 to 15 troops. And India and China will share their patrol plans in advance with each other. And this is to prevent any clashes. That's the first part of the deal. The second element is disengagement, a gradual reduction of troops along the border. It could be on the cards. India and China share a 3,488-kilometer long border. This border has not been demarcated. It is called the Line of Actual Control, LAC. Right now, like we said, there are tens of thousands of troops on either side. The goal is to reduce these numbers. But how will they do it? India's army chief has weighed in. That's General Upendra Dwivedi. He says restoring trust is the biggest challenge.
We want to go back to the status quo of April 2020. Point number one. Thereafter, we will be looking at disengagement, de-escalation, normal management of line of actual control. It has been our stance from April 20 itself when General Y.K. Joshi was the army commander. As of now, what has happened? We are trying to restore the trust.
Disengagement followed by de-escalation and finally a normal management of the border. That's the plan. It's going to be easier said than done given China's history. So don't expect normalcy in relations overnight. Having said that, these developments are certainly positive. India should be cautiously optimistic. A relatively stable border opens doors to more opportunities, more bilateral talks, greater trade and investment, the resumption of direct flights. The possibilities are indeed immense. But like I said, New Delhi must remain cautious because we've been here before. When China agrees to ease tensions, only to backtrack and backstab later. It happened last year. Both leaders were in South Africa. Again, the occasion was the BRICS summit. South Africa hosted it last year. Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi did not have a formal interaction. They had a brief and informal chat. They discussed the need to stabilize bilateral ties. Before that, they met in Bali in 2022. This too was an informal interaction when China claimed that both leaders had reached, and the term they used was an important consensus. That's what the Chinese side said. They said they wanted to work with India and bring the relationship back to normal. But Beijing did not walk the talk on resolving the border standoff, so ties did not improve. Even before the Galwan clash, China has made fake promises. In 2018, there was talk of the Wuhan consensus. Prime Minister Modi had travelled to China in 2018. He visited Wuhan, where Xi Jinping hosted him for an informal summit. Then in 2019, Xi Jinping made a return visit. The Indian Prime Minister hosted him in the coastal town of Mamallapuram in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, where India and China held their second informal summit. And in this meeting, China said, and I'm quoting, a new set of consensus and guiding principles would steer ties. But these were hollow words, because 1 year later, India had to mobilize its troops against a huge deployment of Chinese forces. India faced unprovoked attacks and repeated incursion attempts. Now the year is 2024. The dragon with a forked tongue is promising disengagement again. India should keep talking and pushing for peace, but it should not stop preparing for war. With neighbors like China, India cannot afford to lower its guard on the border, and it must insist on real, verifiable action on the ground. Without that, any consensus is meaningless.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election. Explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.